Welcome back to Coding Goblin and welcome back to another video of my face and a screen as well. We're gonna create a Laravel web app and we're gonna get it live as soon as possible in one day, in one sitting, in less than one day, in a very quick amount of time. All right, let's just get straight into it. All right, I'm gonna go to the Laravel website and I'm gonna see how we do this. So I just wanna point out, I don't know how to do all these things off the top of my head. Because you don't do it every single day, you're not constantly making a new web application. It's okay to rely on the docs of these technologies, and that's kind of what you should be aiming to do. You shouldn't be looking to memorize how to install Laravel, for example, which is something I used to think was the skill of web development, just memorizing how to do stuff. What's important is knowing why you're doing it and that sort of stuff. So don't get bogged down if you can't remember exactly how to do things. Like I can't actually remember how to read right now. So yeah, it could be a lot worse. Right, what are we actually doing? Let's find some sort of function or command to run. So we've got that and we're gonna create an application. So we're gonna be making mileage monkey web app, all right? So we're gonna say mileage monkey. And hopefully this works. Oh, that's nice, that's nice. So goes without saying, you need to have the Laravel installer set up on your local computer, but just follow the docs, just follow the docs. If you read it and go through it, it will work nicely. If you run into any problems, feel free to reach out to me. People do this all the time. info@codinggoblin.com. Just drop me an email, and if I can help you, I will. If I can't help you, then I'll just say, sorry, mate, I can't help you, but I am happy to help if I can. While that is doing its thing, I just remembered you need to create a database on your local machine. So I'm using MAMP. You can, I think, use SQLite. Something I'm not familiar with. Is it SQLite or SQLite? Whatever it is, I think that Laravel now uses that by default. So you can do that, but I'm like an old dog and you can't teach me new tricks. So I use MAMP because I've been using it for years. So what we're going to do is just go to the bit with all the databases. What am I doing? And then PHP. So I'm going to have to blur out a lot of sensitive stuff here, but let's just go to that. And you just want to create a new database. So database is new, and we're going to call it mileage underscore monkey. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to click create, and that's done. And now we don't need to look at that. We can keep it open, but we don't really need to do anything with it. So let's have a little look how we're getting on here. So creating, okay. So this new version of Laravel, it's new to me anyway, relatively new, does a lot of the stuff for you that you used to do. So it's run those migrations. But the reason it's done that is because it's using SQLite. So I don't want to do that. So I'm gonna basically open it up and do what I would normally do, what you're probably familiar with doing, and we'll see what needs to be done. So let's see what we've got going on here. So this is our Laravel application, our newly created web app. So let's see what's going on. What we need to do is, if we're using MySQL, which I am, go into the .env file and put our MySQL details in here. So I'm going to change that from SQLite. We're going to say MySQL. Do you say SQL or SQL? That's a thing, isn't it? People get funny about. Okay. Database is called that. We called it the same thing. Password is root, and the username is also root, as far as I'm aware. Port, I think, is 8889. So we're going to save that. And I'm also going to be using Laravel Jetstream. So if I go to Jetstream, this is going to be really fun to edit. And we're just going to go on to installation. It just tells you what you need to do here, really. But we're going to go and use Inertia. So I'm going to just copy that. Let's get rid of that. We don't need that one. Okay, I'm just going to run a few commands. So we're going to install Inertia. Oh, I've done something wrong already. That's a good start. Oh, okay, I didn't do that. I do know what I'm doing, but this is what I'm talking about. You don't need to know these things off by heart, because you'll get an error message, you look at the docs, tells you what you've done wrong, and you go, oh yeah, I'm an idiot. So then we come down to the actual command that I just ran, Inertia, let that do its thing. Okay, so now we can run our Inertia installation command. While that's doing its thing, let's see if there's anything else we need to do. We're not doing any of this team stuff. I'm not doing server-side rendering. And then we can run these 3 commands afterwards. We're doing this because we just want to get our web app live as soon as possible. And the reason for that is it helps us understand what we need to do to actually get something working that is offering value to our potential customers. So when we have nothing live and we just have this local installation of Laravel and that we've been working on, it can turn into a project that should take a week, for example, and it could take 3 months, or worse, it could never go live. So the reason we go live, or the reason I like to go live as soon as possible, and in this case on the first day of building it, is because it gives you that clarity of what you need to do, and it gives you a bit of age to your domain. Now I know that's not necessarily relevant for a Laravel web application like this when we have a separate marketing website, but it just helps you, and you can start to gather email addresses. You can get people signed up to it without actually having a functioning web app. So you can have it so that people can log in, pop their email address in, and you're gathering that data. And then when you are ready to offer something, you can email all of those people that have signed up to your web app, and you can say, hey, look, the web app's ready. So this is a very powerful way of doing things. I know what's going on here. It's building stuff. So does this mean I don't need to run all the commands? Whatever, it's doing its thing. It's doing its thing. When it's done, new databases. No, we're going to run them in a second. We haven't actually run any. So now we're going to run the next one. I think it just did this, to be honest with you. Okay, what's the next one? Yeah, it definitely just did that. We're not going to run that. Okay, and we're going to do our migration. So we're going to run our migration. So this is going to run all the ones that were done for Jetstream, Laravel, and it said that it added some more. Oh no, this is the Jetstream one. That is what it was adding. Ignore me. So now if we come to our database, give that a little refresh, we're going to see that we actually have some tables in our database. There we go. So this is our database. Now, if we come to our code and we run PHP artisan my serve, I do know what I'm doing, serve, and if we do another one here and we say npm run dev, and then we come back and have a look, it will tell us we need to go to port 8000. So if we come here and we go local 8000, and we're going to see our web app running with a bit of luck. We're going to see our blank Laravel web app any minute now. There we go. So the first thing I like to do is I like to get rid of this homepage, and I like to just have our homepage as the login page. So I like to just put a little redirect on the root for the home. So if we come down to our roots and we say web, and you can see you've got this home here, so you can actually return a redirect. So you say redirect, you say roots, and the name of the root's just simply login. So that's a root created by Jetstream, I think, or Fortify, I'm not 100% sure. Now if we refresh that, and now look, it's automatically redirecting to login. So the reason I like to do that is because we have a separate marketing website. So we don't need anything on the root of our subdomain, because this is going to be a subdomain. This is going to be like app.mileagemonkey. You'll see shortly. So that's why I like to do that. It just sends them straight to the login page. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just put our logo on here. Now I know I'm not all about getting a logo up, but it is an idea when you've got this web app to pop a logo on, because that isn't our logo at the end of the day, and it's just going to look a bit weird if we have this contact form, or this login form, sorry, with this Jetstream logo. So I have actually created one. I did this using ChatGPT. Blew my mind. I literally asked it for an image, and you're going to be blown away by this. You're going to be blown away. So I'm just going to go to our resources, JavaScript, components, and you're going to see certain components here. These are Jetstream components. I'm just going to show you exactly which ones we need to change. So if we come down to auth in this pages folder here, and we've got the login. So we want to change authentication card logo. And you'll see this SVG here. So I'm just going to delete that now. Take a note of that if you want, size 16 if you want it to be the same. And I'm just going to replace that with our logo. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? I asked ChatGPT to make a logo with a monkey leaning out of a van, driving the van, and yeah, that's what it came up with. So I'm pretty pleased with that. Right, so you'll see that on the register page as well. And if we just quickly create an account, we'll see we've got these sections here as well. So we're going to quickly change those. So if we go to pages, and I know what this is, so I'm just going to quickly scoot ahead. So there's a component with welcome in it, and we'll see application logo. So let's find that one, application logo, and we're going to do the same thing again. We're actually just going to copy that. No, we're not. Copy the one from application card logo, because we've made the changes required. Copy, paste that in, and we're going to see that change possibly in the welcome and maybe up there as well. I'm not sure if it's the same one. Refresh it. There, and then we need to change the one in the nav bar, and that's going to probably be one of those other ones. So let's have a quick look. We've got layouts, app layout, and you'll see we've got our navigation bar up here. So what have we got? Application mark. So let's have a look at that. Application mark. So this one we're going to use the other logo, which is just the icon. You can use whatever you want, obviously, but just thought I'd show you both ways of doing it. So let's come down. This is a great video. It's just me copying SVGs and pasting them in. So I want to get rid of the height again, height width. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. We're just going to say class equals width, and we're going to say 32, just guessing at this point, and then refresh that. Should just update on its own. I think my laptop is about to take off. It's struggling a lot, so that's why everything's slowing down a bit, because I'm screen recording and all that stuff. Okay, so yeah, you get the point. You get the point. And then you can change this text here to be something more appropriate. Let's quickly do that. I'll cut this out probably. So this is our real simple app. So you just put a little message here saying, look, I'll email you as soon as the app is ready and you can start using it. So that is all we want. We don't need to do anything fancy. They've got their account, you've got their email address. That's all we want. So let's put it live. Let's just get it live. We're going to be putting this on Cloudways. I'll put a link in the description. It's amazing hosting. I've mentioned them many times. I'll put a discount code in there as well. Very reliable, very helpful if you need any help as well. So the first thing we want to do is add our project to GitHub. So again, I don't know how to do this off the top of my head, so you need to just find a little guide. I'll put up a link to this one with all the commands that you need. So we're basically putting a local repository, or creating a local repository, and then we're going to push it to a remote repository which is on GitHub. So let's see how we do that. So we are going to be doing this using the terminal. So we need to just follow the instructions here. So you can say, let's just see if that works. So create a new terminal, make sure you're in the folder, the root folder of your project, and we're going to just paste these commands in. So initialize an empty Git repository. Perfect. So that worked. And then we're going to do git add. So we're going to add everything to our Git repository. We're going to commit it. Don't worry too much if you don't have a clue what's going on. The more you do this sort of thing, the more it will make sense. Just realized we should have run npm run build before this, so don't worry though. I'll show you how to do that in a second. And now we need to add our local repository to GitHub. So I'm actually going to do this using the GitHub website because it doesn't always work for me doing this. I probably need to do some sort of update, but whatever. Okay, so go to your GitHub account and create a new repository. I'm just going to call this mileage monkey. Make it private. Now you don't want a README and you do not want a git ignore template. You just want it to basically be a completely blank repository. That's done. And now you want to copy the address. So this one, HTTPS. And let's have a little look at what we need to do. So you want to say git remote add origin, and then you want to paste that address. So you're going to say git remote add origin, and then paste that, run that. What now? Now you want to check that it's worked, so you run this one. Yep. And now you want to push to that, so just paste that. So that's pushing all our local code to our remote repository. So let that do its thing. You may need to authenticate, but the instructions are on this page of how to do that. So now if we go to our repository, refresh that, and we're going to see that we actually have all our code here, which is very nice. So we have a look here. That's all of this. What I'm going to quickly do is run npm run build, and we're going to do the short version, or the last bit of that again, where we just add all of our code and then we commit it and then we push it to that repository, because we added our logos and I hadn't committed that. So don't worry, but we're just going to do that. So I'm going to say git add, and if you put an asterisk, that'll add everything. And now we're going to say git commit, and you put put a little message. I'm going to say our web app with logo, git push. Maybe it has already done it. Okay, maybe it's already done it. Okay, now we need to pull that in. So we're going to go to Cloudways and we're going to create a new application. So we need to come here and come to our server, add application. Select application from the drop-down. We want Laravel. And we're going to call this mileage monkey app. Add application. You can see I'm getting a warning there, so I'm going to have to, if I want this to be an ongoing project, I'm going to probably have to upgrade my server, which is fine. very reasonably priced and it's actually worth it, so it's not a big deal. That's going to take a little while, 2 minutes. That's quick. So while that's doing that, I'm going to talk you through the next steps of what we're actually going to do. So we've pushed our local repository to our GitHub repository, our remote repository. We now want to pull that code from our remote repository into our server on Cloudways. So there's a few steps we need to do that, but it's really simple to do. But there are a couple of little interesting, shall we say, points to look out for, but I'm going to show you exactly how to avoid any problems. Okay, 2 minutes. We also need to point our subdomain at this web application. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do that as well. All really simple stuff to do, all really simple. One other really great thing about Cloudways is you can actually get signed up completely free. You don't even have to put in a card, so you can just go ahead and create a web app, upload it, and you can have your actual web application running for free for a few days. That is the caveat. So you can just get used to it and test it out and see how great it is. But it's really handy. There's absolutely no commitment there. And if you don't want to do it after that, you just leave it and nothing happens. No money gets taken. Right, application's installed. There we go. Let's go to our new application. And this is where things get interesting. So let's just open that up and see what we have as a default. I don't know if we have anything. Okay, so just that. It's like a default page. So what do we want to do? Well, we want to first link our Cloudways account with our GitHub account, or our GitHub repository, should I say. So let's have a little look at that. If you come down to here, you'll see deployment via Git. So we're going to click on that and we're going to generate SSH keys. So basically these keys that get generated, we're going to put them into our GitHub repository, and that will allow our GitHub repository to communicate with our server on Cloudways. So it makes it secure, basically. It's a secure connection between those two. So we can pull our code from GitHub straight into our Cloudways project. Really good. So that is just doing its thing, generating. And then once it's done that, we're just going to copy them, as I said, and we're going to paste them over into GitHub. Perfect. So that's now done. If we click View SSH Keys, and you want to just copy that, get rid of that, and then come over to your GitHub repository. We want to go on Settings, and we want to say Deploy Keys, add deploy key, paste that in there, and we're just going to say Cloudways. Call it whatever you want. I'm not going to check that because we only want to pull this repository to our Cloudways server. So that is now added. So we've added our Cloudways deploy key. And now if we come here, we need to see, now if you look here, you need to add your Git remote address. So come back to your GitHub repository, not that. Go to code, click this little drop down here, and you'll see SSH, copy that, paste that in there, click authenticate. If you do run into any problems, they will help you at Cloudways. Don't look at my stupid questions that I've been asking, but yeah, just click down there, just get on chat. They're so knowledgeable, it's actually unbelievable. Puts me to shame, so yeah. Right, okay, so select main and start deployment. So this is gonna pull our code from GitHub into Cloudways, really handy. That is done. Just quickly, come down to application settings, and I wanna turn off varnish if it's on anyway. Might not even be on, but if it's on, we want to turn it off. This is caching, and we all know caching is a bit of a nightmare when you're trying to do development. Great when your app is live and everything's running, but in the development and deployment process, it can be a bit of a nightmare. So I recommend you turn that off. You might not need to, but from experience, just caching in general is just a bit of a nightmare. Pretty much 9 times out of 10, whenever you have a problem and you're just baffled, it's caching. It's caching. So if you're struggling with something right now and you've no clue, just Google your problem and the word caching, and chances are that is your problem and it will give you a solution. So yeah, switch that off. And once that has done its thing, we're actually going to SSH into our server and we're going to just get some bits sorted. We need to connect our database to our application. We then need to run migrations. We need to install Composer and we need to install npm. Perfect. So while we're here, I'm going to actually connect via SFTP to my local machine so that I can change the .env file easily. You can do it through SSH, but just this is a lot easier, a much easier way to do it. So I'm just going to create credentials here. So in your app, go to access details. We're going to say add SFTP user, and we're going to say mileage, monkey, put a password, submit. This will take a minute or two. Wonderful. Now if you go to your SFTP client, and we're just going to connect to that SFTP, we'll come back to that. So username was mileage, monkey, password, and you just want to paste the IP address here, public IP, copy, paste that in, quick connect. So we trust this, and here you can see your server. You're connected to your server. So public HTML. This is our code from our GitHub repository in here. So we now want to quickly open this .env, view, edit. So this is our environment file on our server. So we need to change this to match our details on the server. So let's have a look. We come back to this access here. You want to copy your database name, paste that in to DB name. Oops. And then we need username and password. So we copy the username and password, copy, paste that in there, save that, and we want to upload that back to our server. So click yes. That's going to upload, perfect. Now we come back to Cloudways. We actually want to sign into our server, or should I say SSH into it. So if we come here, I'm just going to open that in a new tab, and we'll see how we can do that. So if we come to our server, we want to click Launch SSH Terminal. Let's try it again. So we're going to get this warning, but we just want to proceed. And now we want to come back to our server here, and we can get the details. So we can copy the username, paste that in there, run that. Password, copy that, paste that in there and run that. And with a bit of luck, we are now logged in. Perfect. So let's see what we've got. So let's just list that. So we want to just navigate our way through that. So applications, and then we should see we have our applications here, the two names. So that's the name of that one. So YH is what it starts with. So that's our WordPress website, and this is our Laravel. So if we just say cd and we just run that, Now if we list that, we're going to see the same as we see here. So if we come back, this is exactly the same. So you'll see all these folders, they're the same ones, okay? So we want to change directory to public. Now we list that out as well. We're going to see all those again. So I just want to quickly show you something. Because this is the same, it's easier if I just show you in here. So we're going to go to that same folder. Now, I don't know if this is always the case, but if we come down to database and migrations, we might find that there are some migrations that don't belong to our application, and it can make things a bit confusing. So let's have a look here. You can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 migrations. But in our project, if we come and shut all this down, we find the same folder, migrations, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've only got 5. So there's basically extra migrations that shouldn't be there. I'm not entirely sure why this is the case, but it can be a problem. So basically, any that aren't these ones, we want to get rid of. So we've got create users table. Let's have a little look which ones we want to get rid of. So it's these 2014 ones here and 2019. We don't have any of those. We want to keep these 2024s and these 0001s. So basically, I'm just going to select all of these and delete them because we don't want them and they're going to cause you problems. So delete those. And now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know why that is the case. Someone cleverer than me can figure that one out, but get rid of them, trust me. Right, now we just want to run a few commands. So we're going to say composer install. Run that. And that's just going to run, oh, problems. Oh, okay. Right, let's have a quick look actually what's gone on here. I think we might be on a different version of PHP to what we need. So that was saying that we're on PHP 8.1 and we don't want to be on 8.1. So let's have a little look. So if we come to our settings and packages, we should be able to find PHP somewhere. Let's have a little look. Packages, I think maybe that's the one. Yeah, look, 8.1, we don't want that. Let's just go 8.3, continue. I should have checked that before, but I'm glad we spotted it now. So once this has updated, we'll be able to run composer install again and it will work. So you might think this is a terrible video, all these things going wrong, but this is the reality of deploying to a live server. You're just going to come across these things and it doesn't always make sense, but you just have to kind of sort the problems out as you go. Because yeah, I could have checked the version of PHP before I started doing this, but you don't think to do that in reality. You think that certain things are set up in a certain way. You just don't know, okay? So it's not a big deal at all. So you just let that do its thing, let that update to PHP 8.3, and then we'll be good to go again. Thank you for your patience. That's now updated, so with a bit of luck, if we run that command again, so composer install, and it's actually working, which is what you like to see. So yeah, these things happen, and it's more about being aware of what's happened and not just being completely baffled. So when these things happen, you do know what to do. And it was a case of just reading the error message. It did actually tell me exactly what I needed to do. Now we need to run npm install. Let that do its thing as well. Very nice. And now we need to run php artisan migrate. And that's going to migrate our database, hopefully. Okay, let's see what that's all about. Okay, let's just try running these commands to clear caches. Caching is always a problem. Okay, so it doesn't like any artisan commands, so it's something to do with that. Let's just try composer install again. Let's try PHP artisan migrate. So basically, not entirely sure what happened, but Composer didn't install that dependency. So that has now run. So I ran Composer install again, and it fixed the problem. So come back to our application, and now if we go onto application URL, hopefully we'll see our application working. That's a good sign. That's not a good sign. Aha, okay. Another thing to look out for, your gitignore file. This is really important, and this is almost certainly what has happened here. So if we find gitignore, so gitignore is a file that tells Git which files to not add to the repository. So if we have a look here, what we're going to see is public build. It's not adding them. So you can either run build on your server, but I personally run it on my local machine and then upload it to my repository. So basically this public build folder is where all of our files are that we actually need to display our website. So it's being ignored. And you, like I said, you can run that command npm run build on your server, but we've already run it locally. So I'm just going to add all those files to our Git repository. So git add. So this is why it didn't do it earlier. So if we say git commit, and we say with build files, git push. So we're going to push now all of those files to our remote repository on GitHub. So this is good that this is happening because it's actually showing you the real problems. So come back to Cloudways and we're going to say deploy via Git. And now we want to pull the latest version of our GitHub repository. So click pull. And now if we refresh that, hopefully that has worked, and it has worked. So that's perfect. Now we can go back to our .env file from our server, and we can just make it a bit more secure. So we don't want to display error messages like that. So I recommend you do this. So find your env file again on the server. .env, view edit. We're nearly there, by the way, we're nearly there. Got a couple more things we need to do. So we can just set that to false, save that, upload that. That will prevent error messages like that could potentially display sensitive information from displaying. So currently this is on a Cloudways subdomain here. So we want to use our own one. So come back to Cloudways and go to access details. And now we need to add a DNS record. So go to your domain registrar, and we're basically going to copy this public IP here. So copy that, and now head to your domain registrar. I am using Cloudways, and we want to add an A record. So click add record, type is A, and we want to paste our IP address in there. And now you want to use the name of the subdomain that you want to use. So you're basically creating a subdomain here. So I'm going to use app, and that's going to be app.mileagemonkey.com, and that's going to point to our IP address there. So save that. Perfect. And now if we come back to Cloudways and go to domain management, and we want to add a domain, and we're just going to say app.mileagemonkey.com. We're just going to click save. Wonderful. And now let's just see what happens if we visit this domain. Might be a bit soon. Oh, no. And you can see it's working. Now, the reason I have an SSL already displaying there is because I'm using Cloudflare. But if you're not using Cloudflare, you will want to come down to SSL certificate in Cloudways and add an SSL here. So you can use Let's Encrypt, use your email address. Whoops. You put the domain that you just created. Install certificate. That's now installed, and you will also want to, I should have shown you this before, you want to set this new domain as the primary domain. So make primary, sets primary. And what that will do is that will make it the default domain, and it will also mean that in this access details page, when this is done, you'll be able to see, I'll show you, but it will display that domain up there and that'll be clickable. So rather than seeing the default Cloudways subdomain. So it's just nice to do, really, just nice to do. So if we come back to access details, now that is been set, and you're going to see it up here somewhere. There we go. Mileage monkey. So now you can click that and it's going to take you to your Laravel web app. So this is really good. Now let's just see if it's working. If we go register, well, you can see it's working, but let's create an account. Register. Lovely. So it's working. So that is how you get your web application live on day one, as soon as possible. So now what this is doing is collecting email addresses for me when people sign up. And what I can do with those email addresses is I can email them as soon as the actual web application is ready. And now I have this very simple web app live. I can think to myself, all right, what features do I need to add to actually start offering value and actually start getting people using this web app? And trust me when I say this, having something live gives you that clarity. It makes your brain work. So I strongly recommend getting something live as soon as possible. If you want hosting for yourself, Cloudways hosting, I'll put a link in the description. Check it out. I'll put a discount code. Do all that YouTube stuff. Like the video, subscribe to the video, and I'll see you very soon at the end.